Mac and cheese is a southern staple that you may be thinking that you have to leave out of your diet if you're trying to be healthier. This video is going to show you some ways that you can make this a part of your diet that you can keep in there if you're trying to eliminate some of the more unhealthy elements of it. So watch along as we share two different recipes, one a little more classic and one with some additions that will make it something that could be a complete meal. So because this might be a weekday dinner, we're going to overlap some tasks a little bit to save some time. So step one is going to be to fill up a pot with some hot water. Hot water is going to save you a little bit of time. We're going to turn that on high to bring it to a boil and add about a tablespoon of salt. So we also are going to want to grate our own cheese. And the reason for that is that pre-grated cheese has a coating on it, and that keeps it from melting as smoothly. And it also is just not going to be as high quality of cheese. So we're going to grate our own cheese, and so we are going to grate it in a food processor, which saves a ton of time. If you don't have a food processor, you can grate it with a regular grater, but the food processor is just really awesome for making this a very, very quick process. And so you're going to snap your bowl into place, and then you snap your little post onto the grater attachment and then put your lid on. And then you're going to cut your cheese into pieces that will fit into the chute and use the plunger to press it into the grater. And this is not sped up a whole lot. It really does grate the cheese very, very quickly, and it makes very short work of it. So it'll save you a ton of time in the long run. Once your water is boiling, you're going to add a pound of whole wheat penne or macaroni to your pot. It's a little harder to find macaroni noodles that are whole wheat, so penne will work just fine. And set a timer for 10 minutes. You're going to cook these until the edges get lighter in color and thicken a little bit. They're going to get a little bit fatter. You can also taste the noodle. That works pretty well, but you don't want these to be super soft because they are going to cook a little bit more once you put the macaroni in the oven. But if you look at the video, you can see it kind of get a little bit fatter. So now we're going to go into our healthier classic version of this recipe. Traditionally, mac and cheese is made with a roux, which is a thickened milk sauce made with flour and butter that's cooked together. But we're going to do a little bit of a different version here that comes together much quicker and doesn't require as much skill. And it's going to seem strange, but we're going to use a half a cup of Greek yogurt. And what that does is going to add a little bit of protein. It doesn't add as much fat as using something like sour cream, but it adds a little bit of extra flavor as well and some thickness to the sauce. You can use between 2 and 4 cups of grated cheese, and you can use the sharpest flavor that you can get because that's going to not make you not have to use as much, but you also can add things like pepper jack or Parmesan to bring the flavor up. If you want to cut the fat down, take it down to 2 cups. If you're not as worried about the fat, bring it up to 4 if you want to have a lot more flavor in there and if you want to make it richer. You also want to have a cup of milk and 4 tablespoons of butter cut into cubes and some salt and pepper to season. And then you can also add in other seasonings like garlic powder and onion powder. I put that in just about everything that I cook, but you can season things up kind of in any way that you would like to, just to make it taste a little bit better and then to complement whatever cheeses that you decide to add. So to make this base, you're going to crack up your eggs and then beat them with a whisk or a fork and get those all together, and we are adding everything together in stages so that it is easier to mix. Then you're going to add in your Greek yogurt and mix that up until it is all homogeneous. That's a term that means it's all together and looks the same. And by not throwing in everything at one time, it's going to be easier to make sure that everything comes together. And then you're going to slowly add your milk in and whisk that up. And with the milk, you can use non-fat milk, whole milk, whatever you're trying to do. If you're trying to lower your fat, you would use skim. If you're not as worried about that, you can use whole. And then you're going to season with salt and pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, whatever seasonings that you are wanting to use. If you have high blood pressure, you're going to want to lower the salt a little bit as well. And at this stage, you're going to add in about 3/4 of the cheese that you're planning on using. We're going to keep a little bit of the cheese for the end to put on top, just to make a nice crust on top. So when you drain your noodles, something that a lot of people will do is the colander will tip over when they turn it in. So something that I have found, if you take your colander and set it against the back of the sink before you put it in, it generally will not tip over on you. So that's a little life hack that I figured out. You're going to pour your base over top of your noodles, and your noodles are going to be drained, and you are going to pour that over top of there and stir it up so that the cheese is completely worked into those noodles. And then you're going to put it in the oven at 350 for 20 minutes. And then after 20 minutes of baking, you can add your remaining cheese. You can also add things like bread or cracker crumbs to the top to make it a little crunchy on top. The next version of this we're going to be making is what I like to call an all-in-one dinner. And this means that you can use this pretty much as your entire dinner for a night. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to add some protein into this in addition to mac and cheese is a complete protein on its own, but we're just going to add a little bit of extra in there. So while your noodles are boiling, you're going to cut some smoked sausage in a disc, and you're going to brown them on each side in a skillet. And it's always important to brown things before you put them into a dish that has a lot of liquid into it, because after you add liquid in, it's going to be much harder to get things to brown, and you will never get that opportunity to add flavor back into that dish. So always brown things when you have the opportunity. If you're trying to lower your fat percentage in this version of the recipe, you can use vegan sausage or turkey sausage to keep that amount lower. You can also add things in here like grilled chicken or any other type of protein that you prefer. After that, you're mixing the base in the exact same way as the classic version and seasoning things up in the way that you would like to. So then you're going to add your sausage and your cherry tomatoes, and I cut those in half. They can be cherry or grape tomatoes, into your noodles and mix those up. And this is going to be a little bit of a messy process. Just roll with it. And then you're just going to pour your base over top of your noodles. And just like previously, you're going to stir that, add your butter cubes on top. We're baking that at 350 degrees for 20 minutes, and then adding your extra cheese and bread or cracker crumbs if you would like to. I really like using Ritz crackers on top of this because they end up being kind of a buttery topping on there, and putting those on top of there and just letting it bake until that top is brown and crunchy. You don't have to bake it a whole long time because it is already warm. And this recipe ends up being really, really awesome, tastes incredible. I highly recommend it. It's one of those things that it's like, don't knock it till you've tried it. It sounds strange, but it does work. Thank you so much for joining us on Mixing with Merks. Please let us know in the comments if you decide to try this. And don't forget to subscribe. It helps out our channel a whole lot.